Welcome to the Life is Good podcast, where we explore the transformative power of healing, delve into real stories of resilience, and uncover the wisdom that lies within all of us. Each episode is a journey towards a life that is truly good, and I am honored to have you with me on this path to self-discovery and growth. I welcome you and I thank you. I am here with a pretty interesting person, first of all. Someone I met here at the lake at Islan, and who, from our first ever conversation, I think we were 2 minutes into what was supposed to be a very short conversation. We went pretty deep into it, and we talked quite a lot about our healing journeys, about life philosophy and spiritual stuff. And we were still at it for like half an hour later. And then it was then that I decided I kind of thought this person should be on my podcast. And since then, we've been on a few other journeys together. And I just like his, I think he has a lot to offer to me and to the audience. And I thought our conversation would be pretty interesting. He is also a spiritual mentor, and that resonates with me a lot because he's one of the persons that motivated me to step up into my full or true potential, and he's actually one of the reasons I am doing this podcast now. So I want to thank him a lot for that. I want to thank him for being here now and for just being who he is. Hello, Scott.
Hello.
How are you today?
Well, to answer that question, I usually check in. That reminds me of when I was a kid. I felt like I was one of the only people, maybe early teens, that when I would ask someone how they're doing, I'd listen. And I was, this is not normal.
Yeah,
how's it going? Good, great. Good day. Yeah, good day.
That's rare.
Yeah. And then it started opening up more to that. I got a job like that.
Wow.
But for someone to acknowledge you, for stepping into that greatness, for allowing yourself to become more open to your possibility, and how that makes an impact on everything and everyone around you. And I think it's less about doing and more about allowing yourself to become more open to those edges and what and where they are, and then breathing life into them. Literally with breath, because usually we need to do that to come back into, get out of the fear, out of the body, to get back into the body. So grateful to be here. It's good because I've had people over the last couple of years ask me, to do a podcast thing, and I'd go out into the world a bit, and then I'd come back into a jungle or a desert or something, mountains. And if they wanted it to happen, it would happen. But I found that, I'm just very grateful for the opportunity to have a conversation where I know it would make an impact. Give other people the choice to follow along and see what resonates and what doesn't, because we're always going to show up from wherever we are.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to let ourselves become more interested in what turns us on, what feels good, like what's that passion to follow, and fuck yeah, doing a podcast. We learn so much.
We do.
And it helps us forget a lot, which allows us, I think, get to who we really are. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you. And I feel so honored and fortunate that you have chosen to come to this podcast. So thank you again for that. I know you're doing a lot of things.
Trying to do less.
That's good, probably. From what I know, you hold ceremonies, mostly on plant ceremonies, especially cacao, which we just had a cacao ceremony, beautiful cacao ceremony, where we shared our, our own insights and experiences and whatever came through just before this podcast. And our hearts opened a bit more. I know my heart opened a bit more, and I'm a bit more at peace. And I loved how you guided that. But do you want to talk a bit about that and what do you do and where are you now?
Sure.
In your journey?
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Again, acknowledging that. I think it's a lot to be present and to come from a place that, okay, I guess chronological life events would support. I came from a place of, I guess my humans signed up to be raised in a house where there was little masculine modeling of emotion being shown. And if it was anger. And if I stood up, then it was violence. And I'm grateful now. My stepfather was the last person that I hated. I thought and I felt through that. There's that idea of having the drinking the poison and hoping that they would die. And it just wasn't working, especially when I ran away from home. The human, the person, that impact, I'm extremely grateful now. Figuratively, emotionally, very open to the opportunity that's being given to me this life to work through different versions of how the masculine is being predominantly showing up on this planet. And where I held on to an idea that I was not enough and I didn't deserve the love of father, a masculine role. So I feel that the opportunity to show up in action really gives space for others to witness a different way of being. And I think that we're all being called right now. Some say it's 144,000. Some say it's some other number.
Yeah.
To step up as this great divergence is shifting and happening in this third dimension. I find that what I'm looking for guidance for most recently is how to be more accessible and palatable. So I don't lose someone as soon as I meet them. I think that I'm meant to, and I've been told this by other guides, other spiritual practice peoples. It's funny how we dance around labels a lot in this spiritual quote community.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with saying shaman. I'm not calling myself, but be with what that is as a practice and a way of life. And I feel that's just like the idea of becoming more in tune with what the actual cycles of the planet and life and animals. And yes, we too are animals. And we forget that. And we're conditioned into forgetting that. So with, you spoke to plants. I find that psilocybin mushrooms, has recalled me about 4 or 5 years ago. Before 5 years ago, I didn't believe in such things. But spirituality is bullshit. And before that, I had resistance to personal development and what that industry was. And so, going from present day to backwards, on a side note, that really supports, I think, the human to have a better opportunity to have things go differently. Because I feel that we are conditioned into looking at a problem or what do we do next or how do we find our purpose. And we're usually looking at what feels like a mountain. And the boulder gets bigger and we have to push this boulder somehow. But we got to read a book or go to a course or do something so that we can learn the better way to do the thing. And I find that we created that boulder and that mountain. So I think that's why meditation is so important. And going back to what I heard from someone the other day was, I feel from her interpretation, there's 3 types of people on earth, or souls experiencing life through bodies. One is that they just see, and they just always have, and they usually had to suppress it. Maybe. And then maybe there's another category of those that need to be shown to see. And I think I was that. I think I am. It's not as much social prestige, almost in spiritual community. Like saying, no, I've always known.
Right.
I've always saw, I was always conscious. The Matrix? Fuck yeah, I was that. I don't think I was. I think I was really trying to fit in and work and do that and make it and feel it, not even feel into. Think that I was pretty advanced in accessing my emotions until I actually sat through different guided ceremonies in jungles and deserts and therapy before that. And then there's some I feel that I just won't see. It's life. And that's okay. There's a purpose. It's not more or less. And if we're sitting in this, or you're listening to this audio right now on a podcast somewhere, you're one of those people that are curious, and or you're somewhere along that journey. And I feel that gives you an opportunity to become more aware of what it is and what your energetic signature is looking for you to be expressed this life. And I'm grateful to become more clear and concise. I'm grateful for the opportunity to become more into the world again from another period of isolation, to become more able to express what it is that feels aligned. And so I think that feeling comes from following what feels right. Like starting for me, like muscle testing was a big thing. I tried to read through a book called Power versus Force. And the idea from it was, okay, just check in with yourself.
Is that David Hawkins' book?
Not Dawkins, but
Richard Hawkins.
Hawkins. Yeah. Black and white cover. Yeah, but either way, right? Like it was something. But like I feel like most books, it gives you the opportunity to become more aware of something that you already know. And because it's not lodged in your brain and memory, it's something of an intuitive nature. And whatever path or guide or guidance you have, I think is supporting you to become more aware of what's already present. And you're shedding and letting go of what's blocking you, or is to be experienced through, including your emotion.
Right. Thank you for this very deep introduction. One thing that really resonated with me is what you said in the very beginning about growing up in a family where the masculine wasn't really expressed, especially when it comes to emotion, wasn't expressed in a healthy way, which resonates with my childhood and with me a lot, because I also grew up in a family where my dad was there, but he definitely didn't know how to express, his emotions, even his love, actually, in a most healthy way. And the other was anger, and they were shouting and, stuff like that. And growing up in that situation, I didn't have a happy childhood, or what I thought a happy childhood is, until some point later in my life where I looked back and I was like, whoa, I do have quite a bit of stuff to heal. But I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to not be abused in any way, or, not have a really bad childhood. I would call it a normal East European childhood, more or less. So I want to ask you something a bit maybe more personal to me. Like, how did you get to reconcile that within you? Like, how did you, move up from that state of being where you didn't know maybe, and again, I'm speaking for myself, where you maybe didn't know how to be a man, how to be a healthy man in the society, and how to express that masculine energy, both in the world and maybe even with a partner or in a group of people or, situations like that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the question. What comes up now is my present relationship. Oh, actually, step back. I feel that I had the opportunity to be quite disassociated with my reality of how I was presenting myself. Reality is a word you can get lost in, but I feel it's an opportunity to see what is being shared through you in a way that is interacting with others or impacting others. I have a very different evolving feeling and wisdom around that question. I'm very in it still, it feels like. The biggest thing that's present right now for me is understanding that my perception of myself and how I'm perceived is becoming, the gap between those two is becoming smaller. I remember there was a moment I was with a partner and girlfriend, and I met her friend, her best friend. I heard all about, but we lived in different cities, so it'd been a while. And I remember in some way I asked something about how am I perceived by you, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like very masculine, very like this, and me being like, what the fuck is she talking about? I'm super feminine and I'm like all these things. So it was just like these moments through my life I had opportunities to kind of check in with the outside world and where is it in relation to my true expression of my energy. What's a learned way of being so I could protect or cope in certain situations, and what are other times when I'm in flow and I'm open and there's less of a defense so that I can become more aware of that outside perspective and then see and observe and with less judgment and belief, this is not what or who and how I am. So I think in a simple way, the backstory in a short version is mother and father met. Father left Ish when I was around 2-ish. I've learned things since. But if we look at that child and so I came to write a book to Lake Teatland. We'll get into if there's time, but the sense that the phrase that came through that was, what if it's simple? So I was writing like, what if it's simple?
Yeah.
Fuck, I'm complicating things. What if it was simple? It's a lot of words right now. What if it was simple? What am I trying to say? Being like Hemingway, just say it. And what if it was simple is that maybe I was looking to protect the feminine in a way, and I was a 1-year-old little boy, and I think that that's predominantly being my energy, trying to be a way that skipped developing what it's like to feel safe in my own body and to be in play and joy in a way that I'm not looking for something else to tell me it's okay to feel play and joy and good. I think the simple aspect of it is we come into a place to understand that we don't feel safe. And as we become more aware of that and it's mirrored back to us, we have the courage to be in groups, like a men's circle, or we go through a program or a retreat, or read a book but with accountability, and we do some of the practices in it. These are opportunities to, I think, become more aware of how and where we are, and where there's opportunity to close the gap between how we originally signed up before we came on this earth. And we also signed up for some specific challenges and lessons to go through.
Sure.
And I think that if you've had more recent past lives that are, there's a lot of ritual and opportunity to be with spiritual practice, I think it becomes more challenging when you come back the next time. Because you want to really get through it. You want to really experience the pain, the pleasure, the lesson, the learning, So I am grateful for that. And anyone and everyone that I meet that are deep in a spiritual journey or some kind of a path, there's my throat communicating with me and closing up in some way. There's an understanding that there needs to become more of an opportunity to be seen and be felt by others, because that will support others to find within them something that resonates so that they can step forward into looking for that support as well, be witnessed and to heal, to face, to feel through, to question even, start with curiosity, or to hate in another person until they see that it's in them. You know, like wherever and whatever someone is in their journey. And I think the masculine on this planet is represented by a great opportunity to be more balanced with what we call in the polarity of feminine, so that we can be with how things flow and operate in a more natural way. I think taking on a father that was quite gifted in understanding their specific role for themselves, and had not developed from their own parents the ability to feel confident enough to raise another child, to raise another human, take on that responsibility, that opportunity for growth. Because there was still a lot of holding on his parents, that look what you've done, right? You probably sexually molested me or something, whatever the story became. And then it takes on a life of its own, because he's very intelligent from what I understand. There's been some contact between us a couple times over the years. But I think what supported me the biggest, and I'll close with that question, is I was helping in a retreat in the Dominican Republic about 4 years ago, ish or less. These beautiful people, and we're there. I was with my partner at the time, who is a support and big time connected with personal development world in San Diego, in the area there. Like knows the people that are in the books that we read. And so there we are in Dominican Republic. I'm there. We're supporting with processes. I was just more kind of just there. And we were sitting in the treehouse village or something like that, where we're in the less developed end of the Dominican Republic. And there was we were in our little huts, but it was elevated above the jungle. And we had a catwalk to go to the main walkways to join to the kitchen and all that, the communal areas. And the bathroom was just off of our cabin, elevated above the jungle. And I remember it wasn't one of the processes that we're being supported in or going through in this retreat, or personal development work, or the mushroom journey, psilocybin journey. It was, I'm just going to stand here and you're going to sit on the bed, and I'm going to face whatever the fuck it is that I've been coming up more and more clear on, and it's here, and I'm not going to move. I'm not going to step forward until I have the courage, or I feel the emotions, or I cry, or I yell, or whatever it is, because I've been doing all this personal development work, and now it's coming in with these different spirits, and I'm just going to stand here, and I didn't know this at the time, but she's holding space, and I'm there. Sometimes I'm a facilitator, sometimes I'm a participant. But right now, I am not going to step forward until I do whatever it is meant to come through me.
I love that.
And it was, I wouldn't do it. It was like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I'm tired of it. It's becoming so obvious, but there's something in me that's blocking me from allowing myself to go through whatever it is. Like, I want this thing. I see other people. I've actually lived and worked with people that are like, oh man, he's a billionaire of whatever, or he's a million. It's like, what am I? Well, you got to go through the emotions, right? One of my coach training things, they asked me a question of like, are you willing to go through your emotion? And I remember a month or two, I was like, what the fuck does that mean? What does that even mean? Because I was blocking it, right? It's like there. Yeah. It's becoming too obvious. And I was there, and I'm standing in this cabin elevated above the jungle, and And then I did it, and I stepped forward and did the whole thing, and I was like, no, I'm in integrity, I'm doing it. And then I walked into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror and I saw me like I'd never seen me before. And I saw like, of course I fucking look like him, but Jesus Christ, I've never seen this before.
Wow.
And I was just there, and I said things, and I yelled things, and I like heard things. And that was the second step. And the first time was at a Tony Robbins event, 6-Day Date with Destiny, in West Palm Beach in 2019 in Florida. But then fast forwards to this moment of like, I love everybody. I've forgiven, and I couldn't think through it. I had to feel through it. I had to experience through it. And then it happened. And now it is. And it's now open. I love everybody and everything. And so that really supported me. So without the trauma, the opportunity to be with that type of masculine, there's another one too that was more present from when I was 8 or 9 until still with my mother, where that's who I previously talked about, with the anger and violence and not being in tune with his emotions, except for anger. And these things led to the opportunity to feel and express and live through and work through. And without that, I wouldn't be where I am in that relationship and that development.
Right.
So I'm grateful.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That is for sure. Like, I came to believe that we chose our path, we chose our challenges and our journey. And that has also been a bit of a stepping stone in my own journey, in my own kind of moving from that sort of victim, fearful mentality that why me, why was I not accepted by my father? Because that's what I perceived, and that's what the trauma in me was saying. So this idea of understanding that I needed to go through that definitely gave me a different perspective. And then in my own journey, also I resonate a lot with what you're saying about going through the emotion. I guess the way I kind of learned about it is like, feel the emotion, letting that emotion be processed, be felt, right? That's what they want, feelings and emotions. They want to be manifested, spelled out into the world. And the way we do that is by feeling them instead of resisting them and pushing them down deeper into our bodies and keeping them stuck there because we are so afraid of the pain they will generate. Because at the point when they me, okay. Right? Like people in general, but definitely me. I'm talking about my own story here. When I first received this sort of trauma, I was so little that I thought I would die. I thought that the pain would be so much that I would die. So then I pushed it down, deep down there, and then forgot about it. And then later on, decades after, I still have to deal with it, and I still have to look at it and feel it all and gradually chip things, little, what was that called? Like a wood chopping, from the big bulk of the trauma. And then eventually I would get to the heart of it and feel that too and become more free. Or at least that's how I kind of see my own journey. But this resonates a lot. Thank you. I didn't even know we kind of have this sort of similar past, I would say. Okay. Wow, lots to go into, but let's keep a bit of a structure here. So you said you started on the spiritual journey about 5 years ago, and before that you were very against it.
I thought it was
bullshit.
Yeah, just like personal development beforehand.
Right.
It felt like there was that resistance.
Right, there was.
Because I was right. because I knew.
Right, of course, because our ego knows, right, better than the divine. But so I'm curious, what changed that, what shifted it? Was it one event, or was it a series of events or synchronicities, or how did that unfold for you?
Sure. Thank you. So what I'm understanding is, what feels like the biggest events that supported shifting or
Exactly.
greater awareness.
Yeah. How did you become spiritual, I guess?
Well, I mean, where I'm now in that journey is like the perspective of the mind and the human is to need to know what is and what's going on in some way, or like to have a story or something to hang something on. And I feel that, like, I had a friend, Daniel Levin, wrote a book called The Mosaic. He works for Hay House. Does or did. And he would open up these spaces where people would just talk about and be with love. And one of the things he said was this idea of love doesn't care what you think or feel, or if is it unconditional, is it conditional, where it's in my relationship, what did my parents do, where am I with that, like a lot of analysis. So I think that leads me to the idea of I think it's like so if you categorize this shift from being less conscious and more conscious, more aware, it feels like I've always had a drive to know. I've had a level of curiosity that felt very developed in comparison to others. I still kept a piece of that childlike wonder, and I guess I'd attribute that to my mother being a hippie. She was.
I love that.
Yeah, like she had that. So I was the kid that had the strange lunch. I'm grateful now, but it was just healthy.
What did you have?
I didn't have anything in like packaged lunch meats and like snack packs and puddings and I don't know, whatever you do in West Coast Canada. I was from Victoria, BC, Canada. Born in North Vancouver, but we moved when my dad left to the island, Vancouver Island, in British Columbia, in town Victoria. And in Victoria, about 350,000 people-ish. I was in a school where my mother was raised in that neighborhood, and it was a more affluent area, but we weren't. So I think I've always been in a place of odds from my surroundings. This idea that you don't fit in, which is a very common narrative that I find that people that I've supported and those that I'm in connection with still.
Yeah.
Kind of like that black sheep, the one that's like here to break the chain. And I think that's an empowering narrative depending on a relationship with it. So if I step back, I feel that as I become more aware of the relationship with whatever it is and have that presence of mind to be in the moment and feel into what is my relationship with my alarm clock? Like, what is it for? Or Gandhi? Or, I mean, like, there's no limit to where and how I can choose to be curious about my relationship. So my relationship, like a question I'd ask someone, what is your relationship with anger?
Yeah.
And then there'd be that long silence that I became really good at. And things come through, right? It's less about what's being asked. It's more about giving opportunity for what wants to come through, a level of containment and safety so that it may have a better chance of coming out. Emotion, thought, feeling, emotions are big and key. Like a seminal moment would be I stopped all the things. I gotta look at a calendar again. I know they're good for you. So, though I'm leaning towards the Mayan calendar more, but there's this idea of 5, 6 years ago, I just stopped everything. I'm in Victoria, in my hometown. I grew up there since I was 2. Went to Willows Elementary and went to Oakby High. Just graduated. That's all the story. And then that led to a moment of, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I've done some stuff. From the outside, I've got this external validation consistently. I've got really good at it. I'm quite charming. I'm able to deflect very well. And I'm able to understand someone where they're coming from, usually before they do, so that I can have them not come to where it is that I'm trying to avoid within me. Like you alluded to. That sense of those survival mechanisms, those things that we developed to keep us safe when we needed to, when we were 3 and someone took our ice cream.
Yeah.
And then that meant something, and it wasn't nurtured, or there wasn't space for it, or the emotions weren't allowed to come out, or whatever our version of it is. And so from that place, it's been stacked on haphazardly with things that does not make a logical progressive sense of this to this to this. But now we're walking around, children in adult bodies, like doing our best to adult. And this kind of alludes to this sense of, when you see children pretending, like doing dress up or playing or creativity, and they're playing, and then it's like, what are you doing? Oh, we're being adults. What are you doing? I don't know. I'm serious. I'm going to work. I'm going to have my coffee. And they get this sense of like determination of like the scrunched up face, and they got dad's tie, and like, I'm going to work. I don't have time for that. Or like, and it's funny, right? But it's very obvious. It's just the systematic, predominant programming and institutionalized way of conditioning that's become more powerful, or is tuning into the power to allow for that way of being to persist and perpetuate. And that's okay, and so I was kind of always out there a little bit. But I was that kid, like most, regardless of if your parent was a quote hippie or not, trying to fit in now, but worked at home, but wasn't okay with money, but needed money, so we didn't have money. But we did have money, but we didn't have enough, not compared to the area I was in. Like there's this like incongruency between thoughts and actions and what they want, and the courage to follow through to have it go differently. So I think it's the hippie mom, and then the stepdad that came in when I was 8 or 9 with the structure, but it was like I demand respect, you do this or else. And me, being very strong-willed, I feel that my soul chose 2 parents that didn't know what the fuck to do with me, because I was a lot. My friends' parents would be like, oh, he's got ADD. He's got ADHD, which I don't think is a thing. But, just like I had a lot of energy. I've always had a lot of energy. And so that way of being, coupled with this insane curiosity, this need for validation from the outside world to know that I'm okay or I'm enough, not, quote, getting it from home, so I learned to be disruptive. I was like kicked out of class, but I knew the limits. Maybe I'll make it to the principal's office, maybe I won't. But I was getting attention. I would be late because that was the one thing that I thought I could control, because I didn't feel in control at home.
Wow.
That dynamic. It was like a fuck you.
Right.
To stepdad, and like these own ways, right? And if you're sharing this, there's going to be something that resonates and connects in a way so you can feel more, if you choose to, be more open to explore that and feel through it, and I invite you to. And that led to, fast forward to many different experiences that you look at on the timeline, like what the hell is going up north, working in the oil field, connect with like working in a bank, to teaching English in Japan, to something in Europe, and then like doing all these things for 2-3 years, for about 20 years, 42 now. And I ran away from home when I was 17. So there's like a lot of opportunities. If you look at a 2-3 year stints, where I would just go all in, unconscious and not knowing what I was doing it for. And that led to this feeling of, I just don't feel fulfilled no matter what I do. I'm on a professional triathlon team. Doesn't matter what I place, what I do. And I don't even know what I'm doing it for. I don't even know the questions asked to look in to see what I'm doing it for. And then another thing. Oh, look at him. He could leave everything and go to Japan and do the thing and be there for a year. Wow. But for me, it was feeding this like external validation machine.
Yeah.
And it was insatiable and it was bottomless.
Yeah.
So then finally, about 5-6 years ago, I just said, fuck it. And I stopped. At that point, I left the bank. I've gone up north again, make a bunch of money. Then I'll be validated. I can buy a house for $700,000. And then that fell through a week in. Spirit was like, nah, that's not your path. Didn't know that yet. And then I stopped everything and everyone around me, like those that were still friends at that level of awareness that I was at, were concerned. I know now it was concerning because I was a reflection of something deep inside them that they didn't know or couldn't be or do yet. But like it was like a yearning inside. There's a soul connection of like, oh. But I did it because I've always had that predominant characteristic through this life of courage being one of the number one attributes. Once I know, I'll do it. Now it's opening up in connection with more emotion and spiritual
Sorry to interrupt.
Please.
Once you know you do it, where's the knowing coming from at that level of consciousness that you used to be?
Currently or 5 years ago?
5 years ago, since you weren't that connected with your intuition or your truth.
I wasn't. I was like, spirituality is so bullshit.
Right.
Like my girlfriend at the time got a
So
Reiki session.
where would it
I was
come
like,
from?
why are you paying for this?
Right.
Back then.
Your knowing, where would it come from?
Frustration. Didn't matter what the fuck I did. Didn't matter how great I was in a thing. Didn't matter how successful I was in the business thing, or like, oh, I'm doing a startup, or I'm in Japan. Look, I'm in this next level of understand or expressing myself through a job or a career path or something. None of it had me feel fulfilled.
Right.
So it wasn't so much knowing, it was more, I'm just tired of whatever the fuck this is, but it's not working. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm going to stop. And then a friend came and was like, you should go to this company. It's a father, wife, or a husband, wife team, got young kids. They're making like $1 million revenue, but they aren't scaling. You should go in there. And I'm like, I'm not good enough at this. But he's like, yeah, go. He saw me more than I did, right? And then I went in there and I found that I became a counselor in a way, like a marriage counselor. They were doing it, but like small business to medium business, you can't get to where you want to go from where you came from and the way of being that got you there. You have to let go. Like if you die, your business dies. It's like letting go and delegating and allowing yourself to create systems and procedures so you can just hand them a book. And then this is what we do. So I started writing things down with them. And then I thought inside still, I'm still not in love with myself at this point in my life. Before I stepped forward in that cabin in the Dominican Republic, a couple years after that. And I remember sitting with this idea, and I'm with this company, and not really knowing my value, and I decided I'm going to fire myself. But before I do that, I'm going to find someone that's a business consultant that does this. Because I don't know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I'm not good enough. And so I was one of those people that was always networking and connecting. I would go to business development things. I'd go to like the Chamber of Commerce. I'd go to whatever, and I didn't even have a business, but I'd go to connect. And I would see other people like, okay, I have 5 business cards. I'm going to hand these out and go home. And I'm there without one. And I just make a joke of it. I just love connecting. But again, I didn't know what I was doing it for. Right. Like I didn't know, there was no fulfillment to it. It's just like endless external validation. It's like,
yeah, exactly. That's why I'm asking where did the knowing come from? Because again, it resonates a lot with me. Like the reason I would do something or the reason I would make my next decision, before I started my healing journey was literally and totally just coming from the outside, from the external. Like my connection with myself and my intuition would be totally cut off, and I would just try to achieve
force it harder.
Sorry?
Like force it harder.
Yeah, force it, or like I would try to get that validation that I was craving so much, similar to you from what I'm hearing, um, in the form of whatever maybe the next project would be, or the next girlfriend, or whatever the external world, my friends, society, the TV, whatever, was ingrained in my brain that I should be doing in order to get that sort of, next level of fulfillment, which never comes, or comes in very small portions that are never fulfilling fully, right? And that's why I was asking you about this, because I like it resonates a lot. And in my own journey again, until I repaired and started to connect very slowly and gradually in the beginning back to my truth, back to my intuition, and make decisions from there, and start caring less about what people say and what people think I should do on the outside, and more about what I think I should do and I feel I should do. Until I did that, my life was chaotic. I felt super lost, overwhelmed, tired, stressed, unfulfilled, all of that, depressed. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing again. There's a lot.
So I will answer that question.
Yeah.
So that led to wanting to fire myself, and then going to one of these networking things and meeting some guy that did the first hour presentation. And then I was like, oh, this dude, there's something about that. And then I was like, hey, we should have a coffee. I have a business that I want to hire you for, and he's like, oh, cool. And he turned out to be a coach. Didn't know what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a coffee, and he said 3 things after just meeting and talking was, well, you could hire me to help you because you're kind of doing what I do. And it was like kind of on deaf ears, like Teflon, like, sure, whatever, man. I'm not good enough. And, but I'm on the outside, I'm very confident. So, okay, tell me more. And the second thing he said was, well, you could hire me to work with them, and then you get out of the picture. I don't know why you do that though. Or third, you could become a coach. We actually have a program that's starting in a week. It's a month in, it's 12 months, it's 25 grand. I have no money. And somehow and then that's what it was. It was like leading to, and then I entered this program with a company called Accomplishment Coaching, which I've learned now is quite prestigious and well known, in that world. And, I've had a confirmation here on the lake, actually. Someone putting on a retreat, and they're like, oh yeah, Accomplishment Coaching. That gave me a moment of respect, like, oh, I could be doing what you're doing. But it's like this idea of, I'm in that program, and you couldn't leave, couldn't quit. You're with 24 other people, and you're in this space, and spirituality isn't touched. If things get too emotional, we're trained to refer to a therapist. But there's something inside still, like, I don't know, the spiritual thing, like, I was really good in the sciences. Like, oh, look at me, I can this and what have you, and God and this and all these things. I was so clear, just like Ricky Gervais right now. I was like with him and how he talks about it. Now I feel like evolved, progressed, let go of and allowed. But there's definite threshold points that I've reached, and that was one of them. And then I'm in this program. And then the money happened. And then I'm going through this thing. And we're going through all this stuff, all this shadow. We're being trained to be coaches. We're being coached throughout it. And there's people that have been doing this like 20, 30 years in it. And it was the biggest thing is that you just couldn't quit. If it was money, if it was blockage, if you didn't show up to a coaching call, it was all very mysterious. There's a lot of empty silence and space in this program. And then all the dynamics come out. It's called ontological coaching, which they want to call is ology, study of, study of being. Mm-hmm. So it's the underneath one. So very briefly, and I'll end with this to answer that question is, so in that program, I found a place where I could fully understand in a very simple way, what is my essence? And I was supporting other people to do the same. through all my doubts and imposter syndromes. And I charged money for this, but I'm still in the program. But we had to. Like, it was a whole thing, and we're all going through it together. Sometimes we're one that sees it in the other person. Sometimes we're one sitting there like, I know it's the thing right now, but I don't see it. Like, and then you go through it. We're never the expert in that training. We're always there to hold someone in their highest and greatest good, in their essence, the core of who they are, and stand for that. And just kind of reflect.
Yeah.
You know, and listen and have silence.
Yeah.
And then we get to survival mechanisms, or as it was called in that program, automatic ways of being. And then we'd name your 3 biggest ones. Like, one of mine is, which one should I bring up? Sleazy Buddha. It's like you said overwhelm, right? Like, that's one of the 200-300 tools we went through and trained and then was doing with other people, right? It's very extensive and life-changing for corporations, for individuals, for couples, whatever. It's all there. But there was still something inside me that was like, there's something with the spiritual aspect. We kind of just touched on it a little bit. I'm still like, meh, but I'm okay. And there's something with the emotional thing. Like, we couldn't get deep into it. I'm like, I need to go get a psych degree and I got to do this before I'm qualified. But there's something inside me that knows I can be more with this. And this is before any plant medicine or ceremony. And I'll close with this. That question is, because my mom was a hippie and then stepdad came in, I had this, well, they're not happy, so I'm not going to do drugs. Because of my mindset, this life, very strong will. Once I choose in something, no one or nothing can take me off that. And so I never did any, quote, drugs.
Yeah.
I was a nightclub bartender for 5 years while I was in school, and then I dropped out of school, and then I went to other things. Because alcohol was okay.
Right.
Right? But I think I'm smart. I'm like, oh, no.
Right.
But until about 3-4 years ago. And now I've done all of them.
Yeah, I resonate with that too.
But all of them in ceremony. Like, it's not like a common thing of like, oh yeah, we did MDMA and whatever. It's called Molly. I'm like, what's Molly? Oh, I had one experience, but it was the most profound everything. Yeah. I went through a walkabout as an initiation into adulthood on my own. And I was guided, and it's like the whole long story. And they're like, MDMA? Yeah, man. I put my guilt into a pillow. All the men went to the garage. We went outside. I did a whole circle thing. I threw it into the trees. I was like, why am I wearing clothes? And then I was like, with the earth. I was listening to the earth. I pick up a pine cone. I find out later that's a pineal gland, but I didn't know that. I'm doing this. Like, it was just like a whole fucking thing. Yeah. You know? And so I think that I've had the opportunity to develop in a way that allows me to be in consistent reverence of what it is and where I'm developing a relationship with the plant, the person, the situation, the moment. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. It's kind of fascinating how mysterious our destiny and journeys are, right? Like similar to you, like in my 20s up to my 30s, I haven't touched any sort of drug except for weed, marijuana.
I smoked weed in high school.
Yeah.
From grade 9, and then my grades went down until grade 11. But I was still on the cross country team and track and stuff. And then I stopped everything.
Right.
Just alcohol.
I never had that. I just smoked weed a couple of times, one time in Hawaii and a few other times, but very few in between. And then in my 30s, we did ayahuasca. I was 30, yeah. I was turning 31 that next month. And that kind of opened me up to a whole new world. And of course, was inside of ceremony. And then whatever, mostly psychedelics and MDMA I did after were mostly in a ceremonious way, where you are, in a ceremony, present, connection, intention. Why am I doing this? Is it just, to get numb, or is it to actually pass that numbness and that sort of traumatic event that I was experiencing, who knows when, and learn where it comes from and actually transcend it. So I resonate with that a lot too. Kind of fascinating how these words are so intertwined and so unique.
Do you want them to?
Sorry?
Do you want them to intertwine? Do you have attachment to that? Or is it more of an observant?
It's more of an observance. I was mostly referring to like other people being in their own journeys being intertwined, like intersecting.
I had no judgment.
Thank you. So one thing I wanted to ask is where do you feel you are now in your healing journey and everything you've gone through and all the healing you've done?
I think I'd like to define my current definition of healing. Healing for me feels like movement. Something that is not moving, that wants to. And we can personify and give it ideas of like being heard, being witnessed, being expressed through us, being felt. But I think that things become, as I learn more about, like at one point I was like, well, many things have happened in 2-3 years. And my marketing friend, he's like, you had an intensive. You say a little story and then someone's like, oh, that was over a year. So I'm like, I think that was a month. And I've kind of had that way of being. Like when someone found me on this thing called Clubhouse, and I was like, then they told me I'm supposed to teach you everything I know. Oh. And that turned into Reiki, but I didn't know what that was until after. I'm like, should I get certified? I guess. And then like that's that thing. Oh, it's channeling. Oh, that's you're being a medium right now. You're hearing the things and you're acting in ways that there isn't a logical way of how it was. So energy worked up into, so there's an understanding of being with energy, I think. And I feel that movement is what allows for the flow of life. It's kind of like the Huna, the Hawaiian spiritual practice of like one of the shaman, I guess, if you want to call it. They just focus on surfing the waves. And there's one guy that I listen to sometimes on Clubhouse when I was on there 2 years ago. That helped me a lot too. Because I had instant confirmation with someone in Paris saying, oh, me too. I'm like, oh shit, okay, crazy. Crazy. And it accelerated things. And that person that found me, so there's Kumupao Lorenziki, 50th generation shaman on one of the islands in Hawaii. And he's had practices. And then we'd talk. And I'd mostly just listen. And then at the same time, there's someone else from Australia that's like, I'm supposed to chill these things. And she was resisting the speed. And finally, someone that she respected said, no, Scott's fine. He can go. He's like a kid going 80 kilometers an hour on a bicycle. Give it to him. And I'm like, I've done that many times. I was on a triathlon team. But like, he's good, you don't have to do a little bit and then come back in a week with integration in between. He's good. He's done a lot of fucking work through his life, because of that childhood, because of that way of being, that character, the different examples of masculine and feminine in ways that allowed me to come to a place early 20s, like, oh, I don't hate anyone, but I did, and that was the last person, or this experience, and then that, and now I'm here. Yeah. So it's like this idea of healing feels like bringing light to dark, It is good or bad. We've chosen duality. We've chosen heaviness and slowness. Our manifestation is the thing between what we think and what will physically appear to give our human the satisfaction of it being. It's for a reason, the pain, the pleasure, the struggle, the bliss, the joy, the ecstasy,
the lesson, the learning.
Yeah, if we choose. I think that comes back to choice. And what I've understood is that we still have that thing of free will.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know with that. But healing itself, I was very sure and certain. Because look at me, I'm intelligent. I can talk to anybody from any walk of life. And I can relate and I can connect and I can prove them wrong if I need to. I have so much validation from the external. Mm-hmm. And so then we lead you through the process and things and coaching program to like there's more, and then I signed up for Tony Robbins stuff, and then things were happening. Like now I'm like a platinum partner, yes, I'm like part of the inner circle, but I'm not, but I'm there, and I'm doing that at the same time. And then I take on another thing online, and then the whole shutdown psyop came through, whatever. Then I was just doing many things, but I was still having a coach at the time, a coach that I thought was too good for me. And so I reached out, and she's like, of course, yeah, I'll give you a discount rate, no problem.
Wow.
Yeah, things like that. It's like she brought my program to Canada. I love her. She's amazing. And then all these things led to this understanding that there was more, but I didn't know what. Just like when I stopped everything, there was a feeling of like, I'm just fucking frustrated with this. I don't know what it is, but something's going to happen. I know I'm going to handle it because I've been able to burn shit down and start again so many times. So here I'm going to do it again, but it's going to grow. It's like a phoenix, maybe. I hope. Yeah. It's more romantic. Think of it like that. Yeah. And so like here I am, and now I'm going to do whatever's next. And then I decide now I'm doing the second year of the coaching program. I've done some Tony Robbins stuff. So I've made connection with the Platinum Partnership. There's people that spend 85 grand just to be, and then to travel, and they have the opportunity to do that because of their business and money. And here I am like, well, I have $40. Well, down with my coach, and I put a number up there and worked with her, and I need $4 grand. And then I got 3,987. But I forgot about it. I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's possible. Let's go with something bigger. Where are my limits? And just work with someone. So I'd recommend anyone to be with any kind of mentor if they have the opportunity. And it's okay if you're like me and you're like, fucking bullshit, personal development. And then I was in Tony Robbins. And then I was doing affirmations. Then I got the job. And then I had the girl that was the ballerina. And I was a pre-professional triathlete. Look at this. But I still was unconscious. I was still missing that spiritual aspect. Yeah. That you talked about before. And then the moment was being at the second live 6-day higher barrier of entry. I'm a platinum partner guest, but I still need to come with $7-8 grand somehow. And then my father comes out of nowhere, says he's not going to give me anything. And then he sends me a check for 10 grand. Well, the day or two before I had to have it in. So I'm like, all right, fuck, here we go. I'm still not spiritual, quote unquote. Wow. So here I am. And then I look back now since then, many things like that have happened. And I'm beginning to believe it more. And so I'm here and I go to the Date with Destiny thing, and you're just jumping around for 12, 13 hours. You're with people from all over the world. There's 5,000 people there. You're in the platinum group. So you're like, there's people that are really into it and they're really jumping around, and me too. And I got so much energy and I'm going to do this. And now we're going to sit and breathe. I'm going to check with my heart. Now we're going to all stand up like we're men, and we're going to play Braveheart, and we're going to really feel it. And then the women are going to do that. I'm like, oh God, there's a difference. And like all these, like using NLP, using lights, using techniques, using all these things. And we're just so fucking hyped. You don't want to sleep, and you stay up all night with these people. At least I do.
Wow.
And you're doing all these things, and you're like, oh my God, everything and anything is possible. And then that led to meeting someone kind of, and then going with their group called Legendary. This guy named Gerald and Allison and Tony, a couple, married couple, and this other amazing dude, Tony. And now I'm part of their group online. So I'm still in the second year of running the program and coaching the first year coaching students like I did. Yeah. There's 4 levels of that, 4 years. But I'm also doing Tony Robbins kind of world. And I'm also now doing this other one from the Tony Robbins World Connection. And I'm there, and I'm at the 6-day thing, 3-4 days into it. I remember the first day I came, I said to someone that's been to a lot of Tony Robbins stuff, and I remember saying, I'm going to surrender this or something. I said something like that. So I still remember her look like, sure. You don't know what you're talking about. And then 3-4 days into it, there was a moment of a woman from India that was left for dead because she was blind and she was growing up in the slums, and a police officer came up and said, hey, where's your mom? And she was so positive and optimistic, like, oh, she's going to come pick me up. And then he took pity and brought her to an orphanage, and then fast forward, now she's in Canada. She was adopted. She wasn't supposed to. It's this whole story. And now she's in this room of 5,000 people talking to Tony Robbins, and I'm listening to it. And something about that story broke something in me, and I just started crying. It's like, why everything's connected? Oh my God. And I'm like, oh, happy person that's inside. And like, just everything. And that was another one of those moments. But I still wasn't spiritual. And that led to another thing. It led to another thing, to another thing, to being in Salt Lake City, to getting on a plane from Canada, telling everyone, and everyone's saying it's COVID, you can't go. To 2 months later, this group is having a live event in Salt Lake City, Utah. And then I just didn't tell anyone I left. One-way ticket. That was another moment. There was resistance. I've never had to get off a plane before, but that happened. And then I was 24 hours late, like a whole fucking thing. And now I'm there. And now I'm in a group with someone online for about 3-4 months before that moment. And then one of those people in that small group does family constellations in St. George, Utah. And now I'm in family constellations. Now I'm feeling energy. And I'm still, my mind is like, oh, you're feeling a shiver down your spine. Must be cold. Right. And it kept happening and happening. I'd get big rolls in these things and you don't know what you are. I'm like, I know what it feels like to be a guy that's been dead for 100 years and he hates that other person being represented by that and that thing. And I love that person that's walking around in this family constellation thing. But we wouldn't be told all these things until after. So it was like over and over. And then I was part of that for 6-7 days. And on the 6th day, one of the people in that group, in this retreat, which I was being asked to like co-build a business with, the person running it, sort of buffo. So then I had buffo.
Wow.
And then the next day, I went to the desert in Arizona to do ayahuasca for the first time.
Okay.
And then that led to the next thing, to the next thing, to, oh my God, this is channeling, to now I'm doing it on Clubhouse. Now I'm doing readings for people. Now I got Oracle decks. And I'm getting this consistent feedback. This is very accurate. And I allow myself to just be a clean and clear channel. And now I'm in Lake Atitlan.
Quite a fascinating trajectory.
Yeah.
And I wonder, was there... Well, it almost feels like you weren't even looking for it, right? You were,
No.
And it came to you.
Yeah.
And that, to some extent, to me,
I saw it afterwards almost. It's like, oh fuck, that just happened.
Right. To me, that story, or that sort of trajectory, sounds in a way the way to get it, or the easier way to get it, maybe, at least in my own experience, because I've been a bit on the opposite of that, where I would believe in these things quite a lot, but they wouldn't manifest that easy, or I wouldn't get that sort of evidence from the outside just in the form of manifestations or synchronicities or whatever, that easy, or not at that level that you're talking about, right? So then, because my belief would be somewhere here, but the evidence from outside would be somewhere here, much lower, I would think like, oh, I'm a bit too crazy, I'm a bit too naive, I'm believing too much, and look at the external world not really showing up, at the same level. And I feel like it was quite the opposite. Like you would believe 10%, but you would get this evidence is at 50% or more.
And I tell people now, and I'm like, I'm in an all, like the Bellagio in the VIP area.
Yeah.
5 bathroom, 1,500 a night thing.
Incredible.
People that are supposed to there aren't. And I'm there with my partner looking out like, oh right, it doesn't have to be like a number. Like you have $10,000. It's these experiences are being expressed in a way that comes, you just get out of the way,
Yeah. So that's why I'm even saying it's easier because you are out of the way. You're not even looking for them. You're just...
I never know what I'm going to say anymore. This whole time. Like my brain's just there to allow me to be able to speak English.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, you're using your brain as it's intended, as a tool.
Which is another whole long story in there that I skipped over many things. Like I'm at Chichen Itza and I'm in the Yucatan and I'm there and I'm like supposed to make a drum with a shaman and then I skip it and I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to go with this. And then I meet this guy, Mitch, he's amazing. And I'm in this, and he's going to see his maestro in Chichen Itza. And it so happens to be, but like 2 years before that, like my first spirit totem came through and it was a snake. And I was like, man, I thought it was something cool, like an eagle. And then it's like, cool. But it's got feathers. And I've learned since, right? Like that was just ego, not good or bad. I have a whole thing on ego as well. But it's just here to support us to be in our human bodies. It's not good or bad. And then I'm there, and then it's like the 2 days of the equinox, and I didn't know that. And there's Kukulkan Quetzalcoatl, like the feather serpent.
Yeah,
I didn't even know. I looked it up in Wikipedia.
It's crazy, yeah.
At first, and now it's like 2 years, and I'm here because I just kind of said okay. Because of that one attribute, I feel this human wanted to express through him as like a big way of being is courage, and so it's like almost like the fear of now I know it will happen if I get really clear and intentional, and I have support around me. It's kind of the next level right now. It's like closing the gap from like when you were sharing about that, like you were emotioning for people in podcast land, that like one level high, like I have these beliefs and it's possible, but the result is not here.
Right.
And then your perception of my experience and my journey so far is different.
Right. The opposite.
Different, right? So I'm seeing that as a story. And I think that when personal development allowed me to feel more into how I could be more present with the predominant ways that I show up and how it's probably showing up everywhere. But I think it's just right here.
What do you exactly mean by that?
I feel it's like, I like the analogy of we're just big nervous systems walking around reacting to things, you know, and we think it's more. And I feel we're just a channel, we're a conduit, we're a way to express through us our current level of understanding and what we're resisting and what we're allowing and what we're feeling, what we're not feeling, what we're expressing.
Yeah.
And I guess I had a big influence, a guy named Shaman Durek. He found me on Clubhouse.
Yeah, I heard you talking about it.
Yeah, and I've learned a lot. And I love him. Beautiful human being. And his story is a 6th generation shaman, and he's doing these things. He doesn't touch plants, which is just like a small part of Earth shamanism in his expression of how he shared it. And he has a book called Spirit Hacker. Read it. And do the things in it.
Okay.
Or don't read it.
Thank you.
Okay, read it, but do the things. And he spoke to ego in a way that stayed with me, and it makes sense. That the ego is here to support us to stay in the human experience. You know, if we go into the outside of the dimension that we're in, this density, this duality, right, wrong, up, down, slowness, heaviness, and why would we stay? Go back.
Yeah.
And I think it's here to support. And then you can develop a relationship again with it and say, hey, ego, tell me something fucking awesome about me. Thank you. Right on. Yes. Okay. A little bit of courage, some feeling good, you know, I mean, that's all we're here to do, I think. And just to be what it is that we signed up to express ourselves through, but we have to go through the arduous tasks of suffering. And then I think as we do the work and we show up more in honesty of self, seeing each other and seeing ourselves, less attachment, less expectation, then I think it gives us more of an opportunity to be more expressed in what feels good, and we can love, and we feel the love, and we receive it. You know, it's like that circulation piece.
Yeah.
That's being expressed.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, we talked a lot. I mean, about a lot of different things that you're doing. Do you have any particular maybe practice that you're doing in this phase of your life? Do you want to share?
I feel that the one that comes up, you know, I was at Fungi Academy here in Lake Atilan for 6 months. I left in December. It's August now. You can do the math. It still came through. It didn't matter what medium or what I was offering or what I was supporting in or supporting other people's passions through their offerings. It still always came back to how I was supported to develop a relationship with my body, to develop a relationship with my heart, to learn that through my process. I did a 3-month online coaching program with someone else, and then we called it Pathway to Divine. And it pretty much was my process to be where I was to where I am now.
Okay.
We're activating people I being told by spirit and people in confirmation that I'm here to activate people.
I love that.
You just talk, Scott. Just show up. And I've had people say in rooms, being like, I don't know what you're saying, but whatever the fuck's happening, my body's reacting and things are opening. And I'm like, okay, cool. And
well, I can speak to that. Sorry to interrupt again. About the podcast. Like, you've activated that in me.
I want people.
Sure.
I fucking love humans. Like, I'm meant to be that. I'm here to support. As I love myself more, I have more capacity and ability to shine that, to be that lighthouse, you know, like not running around trying to shine on people. Hey, here's a flashlight.
Right.
Fucking see yourself. You're amazing. Because I developed not to love me. So I've got really good and sensitive to how I can be and see and attune to other people's thoughts, feelings, emotions. Because I didn't have the safety I felt. But I'm so grateful for it now. Yeah, I had to go through that shit, to go through it, to be in this place that I have these superpowers, you know, that were, had the 10,000 hours, you know, like had whatever it was. So that now that's my way of being. And it was aligned to what I think my soul chose for a possible journey or path. And so here I am now. I think the greatest thing is to, I remember I was working with someone on a coaching call, and this is going to answer your question about a practice, is that I stopped the call. And I'm like, let's just breathe. And he was, you know, under his father's shadow of being a very good, successful business person. And I just stopped and I'm like, let's do box breathing. Breathe in for 4. Hold, count to 4, and breathe out for 4. And I learned at that point I had to do it or they wouldn't do it. And things like that. And we did that a couple times. And his feedback since is being, when I hear from him, though I'm quite I feel like I've gone through many different worlds of people, whatever you want to call it. And for him, it was the most profound thing he's ever done in his life.
Yeah.
Because he was so intelligent and motivated, and he had this huge drive to prove to his father he could be a successful, achievement-oriented alpha A type, you know? And so I think that's it. I think it's borrowing the practice or courage maybe from something or someone else outside of you that unconsciously has leverage over you. Like Tony Robbins did with me. Shaman Durek did for a bit. You know, Wayne Dyer.
Let me repeat it. So borrowing something or someone outside of you that has leverage over you. Is that what you said?
Sure. I never know. But yes, okay. So I tell people to record things when I do readings with them.
Right.
Or Zoom call. Record it, sure. Probably won't look at it. There's a sense of, like borrowing the whatever it is, there's a feeling inside you, and like don't go big if you don't want to. Like just go with something small. Like I want support in eating differently, or I want whatever that one thing is.
Yeah.
Look for something outside of you to support you to be that, do that, experience that. You're not reliable as a human to do it yourself. You're just not. It's predictive and that you won't, because you have lots of evidence that that's happened over and over, and you have judgment, if not unconscious, consciously. So just choose one thing that feels accessible, that's something you know you want to do. Let go of the other shit. Get something outside of you, like something with accountability that you put energy into, be it money or commitment, that you just feel out of integrity if you don't do it. And that will build on itself.
What would that be? Like another person, an accountability body?
Well, I think that to be an effective coach, from what I was training through accomplishment coaching, was I'm not their friend. I can't be.
Yeah.
I can't be in that relationship. Even though I am demanding in a way, or we're developing a relationship through consideration given, right? Money for time and all that, contract signed, minimum 3 months, is like, because I will say the thing that the other person won't, because there's an unconscious or conscious thing that you don't want to lose. You know, if you go to that deep place, someone could say, fuck you, and I'm never going to talk to you again.
Right,
or,
good friends.
I love with you, and I'm infatuated, and we should be together for the rest of our lives.
Right.
You know, you're my soulmate. or something. Like, you don't know. There's something other than that. So to be in a situation with someone that's done enough of the work, and if they haven't, and there's something that comes up, they still have a support network, like another coach to work through it themselves. You know, what a blessing. And so, to be somewhere that's like, that's out of my attainment. I can't afford that. Or that's just a little bit further. That stretches me somewhere. But I know inside when I breathe, I come into myself. Maybe it was like, for me, meditation. That was before all these things, before the stopping everything. It's like I was part of a startup for a marketing company. And I remember getting the Headway app. The Headway app.
Oh, yeah.
Calm. And I'd do the free version.
Yeah.
And I'd do whatever. And I would just go do it. And that led to where I am now, right? Like, at one point, the most extreme of my path was all possessions gone. Literally, all material possessions gone. I had a backpack. I'm in Mexico. I have a mala. I'm on a Zoom call with a Hindu monk doing a mala chant. And I'm just eating beans. I don't know where I'm going to sleep, but it seems to keep working out. You know, like, it doesn't have to be that extreme. I think I'm able to be that for other people so they can borrow that, right? Mm-hmm. There's some kind of a leverage. There's a thing they want, but they just don't know how or whatever. That doesn't matter. Just say yes to something and sign up for it. Pay the money, get the plane ticket, have the experience, have the fear, have the resistance, have the rationality of why you shouldn't, have the buyer's remorse, have all these different ways of being with why you shouldn't do what you inside you know might do something. Like me, like I've had many opportunities, and I think I don't know, there seems to be a shift or difference of like, I'll do it once I'm clear.
Right.
No. So my relationship with uncertainty has become healthy. Right. You know? And that's the only way. Because we develop the ways of being that are stopping us from doing something different. We develop the ways of supporting our nervous system and self to feel safe in those times when we were helpless. We were a small child, we were shaking a crib, or we saw someone die. Yeah. Which I've done. That's great. Like get shot in front of me. Well, another story. So like there's so many opportunities for us to be with something that's very interface. We don't want to see it, but when we go to our breath and we check in, and then we go for it anyway, is when the universe is like, I guess I'll answer the question with, in the end, we're all in this river, and most of us are going upstream, and we gotta work harder. We gotta look at that boulder and push it up the mountain. We gotta do the things. And sometimes we get really ingenious and we get a company and we're all rowing, and it's like AI now, and we're rowing even harder up, and it's like, look at us, fuck, we're winning. Nothing's really, I'm forcing it all on the things, and I'm getting this money, but I'm still not fulfilled, and my wife left me, and what the fuck? And here I am, and then some of us let go of the oars. Some of us let go of one, and we're just spinning around. And then when you surrender, like I was given the advice from Spirit, don't read Michael Singer's Surrender Experiment. It'll fuck with your journey. So I didn't.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. And so I didn't. And then you just go with the flow. And then sometimes there's rapids and turbulent things. And then it's like, turn the corner. Actually, I had this experience as a kid, which is strange. And it's not strange. And then you still have to choose at some point to push the boat ashore. There's still that free will, that's choice.
Yeah.
The empowerment in that moment, even though you don't know what you're doing it for, but there's something inside and then you're taking for it and you feel you're out of your body and like, oh my God, I'm going to get judged and who knows in what feelings and emotions, but you still push the boat ashore. And then when you do that, sometimes you may need to portage it, pick it up. And maybe there'll be a fucking rainstorm or a boulder in front of you or snake pit or who knows. But I think that's the universe saying, are you sure? Like me, I was on that one-way ticket.
Yeah.
Leaving all the things.
Yeah.
But I've never planed before. What the fuck's happening here? Like they literally took it off the tarmac on off. I'm like, okay, it's fine. They'll put me in a hotel. I got to the retreat. But it's like there's a test. You know, are you serious?
There's a test to try how serious you are, right?
It's like that idea of I had this connection with this guy named Forget his name right now. That's okay. He's like the next Napoleon Hill from Think and Grow Rich. But he wrote a book, and he's co-wrote like over 100 books with people. And I'm in his mansion in Carlsbad, and I remember being on a call with someone, and we were talking about his book, 3 Feet from Gold. That's when people stop.
Yeah.
You know, and then I have a call with my last coaching client that won't quit. So I'm like going on and I'm like, okay, here we are. Love him. And he, and I'm like, hey, you want to meet so-and-so? Greg. It's like, yeah. And he's like, the look on his face, like, holy shit, that's the guy in the book that I'm studying and I'm reading. And then you're sitting there playing pool with him in his mansion and you're not even working right now and you're there. It's like, I'm still disembodied from that. So going back to the beginning of the podcast and this conversation, that's my journey, is to reclaim, to be with that happened. I'm sitting with that person. I did that experience, you know?
Yeah.
So just do the thing.
Just do the thing. Buy the ticket.
Buy the ticket. Hire the person. Come back to breath. Reach out. Don't do it yourself. We haven't done anything alone anyway. The shirt you're wearing was made by someone else. The thing you're standing on, the water you're drinking, the food you ate, like everything's in circulation and community and connection. So to just choose and go forward. You can't make a wrong choice.
Yeah.
And what you've done is not who you are.
Yeah.
So just do the next thing.
Love it. Wow. Okay. My next question would have been, what advice do you have for people on the journey? But I think this kind of sums it up. Just buy the ticket.
Do the thing.
Go for it. Do the thing.
Do the thing and know that sometimes maybe like you're me and you have to go really fucking extreme. Like you don't just go, you let's do a sport. You do like the hardest sport you could think of, triathlons.
Yeah.
And you force it or whatever. And maybe you just need to learn. Maybe you learn astrology later in life and you're like, oh, all those things are on retrograde. Okay, that means I meant just go through it really hard.
Yeah.
Or whatever, right? Like, I love it. It's like Mercury's in microwave again and things are coming through. It's like, be fun with it. Do the things, but show up in a way that feels to your current level of authenticity. I think a big thing is where we can create situations and opportunities that we can love the past versions of ourselves more. And that frees up the opportunity for spirit to open up that path.
Yeah. Okay. We're getting closer to wrapping it up, but I would ask you this, since we are not asking the other question. What do you think is a simple way, maybe a simple technique or something in your arsenal, in your vast arsenal, for people who are maybe not on the path or as advanced on the path or just starting, they're just there at the threshold maybe, to kind of really feel and really know what they want to do, before they buy the ticket, before they, I don't know, join the company or start the company or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like in today's age especially, and again, this is something personal to me, there are so many distractions and so many avenues we can go on, and it's so easy to get overwhelmed and get lost. So how do you bring that discernment into your own life and so what your truth is in your opinion from your journey?
Yeah, great question to close it up. I think it's satisfying the mind in some way. It's giving it the opportunity. So it's reading, it's podcasts like this. It's something that you just keep pouring stuff in. And like Tony Robbins said, eventually good stuff pours out, trickles out. It's just like, also maybe set up a little shrine in your closet. Don't tell anyone about it. Just do a little thing. Get a little weird, like
get a little weird.
Get a little weird. Like do a thing. Like I'm not going to tell someone, but I'm going to sign up for body work that the chiro actually looks at some astrology or like something weird, you know, but like you've heard from people and your mind's going to want satisfaction enough to spend this hard-earned money, but then you do it anyway. So it's kind of the same thing, but start what feels on like a scale of magnitude more accessible. Like if I was training someone with mindset and vitality and coaching in like I did in the past, you know, groups or personal, let's just start with that thing that has you feel like you've achieved something. You actually get instant gratification, or if not, very soon. It has a more of a profound impact on you, but it took what felt like the least amount of effort. So go for like the low-hanging fruit of something that may give you the opportunity to start believing another way is possible. You know, whatever that is. Like, for example, being with, eating differently, or doing a little bit of exercise. Do like the little habits, you know, like the little tiny, just pick one though. Don't fucking do a list like I always used to do, like 10 things. I'm going to do it this time. It's a fresh start.
Right.
Ignoring the evidence that I've done this many times, like the New Year's thing, right? Right. Gyms would not exist if people didn't sign up on New Year's.
Right.
And then stopped coming. They couldn't hold all the people.
Right.
So it's like knowing that this is just it. I consistently lie to myself. Maybe I'm not ready to see that yet. So let's just not even be aggressive. Let's be low-hanging fruit, something soft, something that's like there. It feels kind of attainable. Maybe you can go to SMART goals. Like, what are they? Simple? No. Measurable, achievable, whatever. Like go with like a tangible, it's in a book. Like maybe don't go to a seance in the jungle, you know, first, right? Like do something that's like edged there, and like it's the fourth time someone suggested this.
Right.
Maybe there's a thing, I'm not going to tell anyone, but I'm going to show up, whatever it is, you know, or like call that person or do that thing or show up like, yeah, but don't go slow, go easy, you know, like when I was on the triathlon team, the thing was, 10%. Don't do more than 10% intensity or speed, you know, like then you'll hurt yourself and then you're out for 4 months or something. Just do the next low-hanging, simple thing that's right there, you know, and it'll just build on itself.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And thank you for this podcast and for this conversation, for being you. And I really felt like at points you were really channeling, you know, throughout our conversation. So thank you for doing that and for being able to do that.
You can too. And you hearing this, like we all have this sensorium that's being dumbed down since we were born into this culture and society.
Yeah.
It could be smell, it could be taste, it could be hearing, it could be seeing what can't be seen. It's like, could be knowing, you know, we give them these names like clairsentience, claircognizance, clairaudience, clairgust, whatever. It's like, that stuff will come, you know. Also, another thing, it doesn't matter what I say. It's like, our identity is one of the strongest things for the human. We call it ego, but like identity, like, I can't tell you what to do, you know, like look at parents and kids.
Yeah.
They were hippies, fuck that. I'm going to have a Mercedes and a suit, and I'm going to read GQ, and I'm going to have a tie bar and a rock a square, and I'm going to show up, and I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to be in finance, you know, and here I am, right? Like, fuck, I don't want to wear shoes. I get it, you know, but it's like another evolution of where your parents stopped with their limit. So it's like this feeling of just become a bit more of you. And that's all the universe is asking. And whatever that looks like, its expression will be felt by yourself and others, but usually others first. And then you'll start becoming more open to receive who you are. And that's by doing that little thing, that book or that thing that's a bit outside of your comfort zone. Beautiful. Or hire someone like I used to be, right? Like that coach that would support the person. And then I became the coach. I'm like, am I the coach that is supporting people to quit their job? I don't know if that's my thing, you know, but like, that's definitely where I am.
Yeah.
You know, like I cannot do what that was anymore. Whatever I was doing. Yeah. And if people vibe with it, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
People are going to hate it, then I'm doing it right. Because I'm like more of an agitator and a mirror. So
Yeah, yes, it does seem like the rebellious kind.
quite. Yeah, work through a lot so it doesn't come out as aggressively.
Right.
I love you. I'm just going to do it best with truth. I love it.
Thank you, Scott. Is there a place or somewhere where people can find you? Do you even want that at this point in your life?
Well, I'm going to be managing the Mystical Yoga Farm.
Yeah.
So here's a shout out to Jahendo and Sunny. I love them and that whole group. I've been on the lake for 1 year and 4 months now. I meant to come for 5 weeks to write a book, and I stayed. I sat with the Wachol, with Peyote and Temescal, just with their energy, cacao ceremony, and mind cosmovision with a guy named Walter here. Check him out if you're here. He'll be in Europe actually in September. Like there's opportunity in places that call you. You don't need to think and look into your fucking cartography and your ley lines and where you should be or not, and like where was I in a past life, and maybe it's Japan, I should go there. Just kind of go with that little feeling, and then maybe that's the place you take a vacation. And then that thing happens.
Yeah.
And so my offering and my invitation to people is reach out to someone or something that you've been meaning to. Like I remember I had a client and he looked up to, what's the guy, Noah something, he had a talk show, but I'm like, send him a message.
Noah Trevor?
Yeah. Trevor Noah. Who knows?
Wow. Yeah.
You might not reply, but you won't know unless you do.
For sure.
Or show up to the place or do the thing, and then you have that cheerleader with you to support you and kind of just keep on reflecting your highest and greatest. Because we're the last to see it, it seems. So my invitation is to do that. If you want to connect with me directly, I do have whatifitsimple.com, I think. And I do have offerings. I do readings for people, healings, supporting you to heal yourself. That's all on there on the website. Other than that, come to Mystical Yoga Farm. I'll be there for the next 7 months.
All right. Whatifitsimple.com for the Mystical Yoga Farm on Lake Atitlan. Yeah. Love it. Thank you so much, Scott, for this. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and being here with us on this episode of Life is Good podcast. I hope you got to learn some interesting things today. Maybe some resonated with you, maybe some didn't, or maybe some you've heard for the first time. In any case, if you have any questions or feedback for me, please don't hesitate to contact me at the link in the description of the podcast. I am so honored to be doing this, and I'm looking forward to be with you in the next episodes. Thank you, thank you, thank you.